Okay, so hey everybody, it's Richly Sims, and I'm back here with another speed build. Now I'm going to do something a little different with my speed build today. I saw this girl; she was doing makeup and she was telling a very scandalous story. She was talking about Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton. So I sat there and ended up watching like three of her videos, and I said, you know what? The next video I do, I want to do something kind of similar to that. Kind of similar, the exact same thing. I'm talking about a scandalous story slash, as I like to put them, a precautionary tale. And my favorite precautionary tale that I talk to people about is Betty Broderick. So, if you're not familiar with the story, it's a late 80s, early 90s salacious story, a couple movies played by the main character, who was Betty. That was played by Meredith Baxter Burney in the movies, and her husband was played by the guy from Seventh Heaven. We're not going to talk about him, really. We know what he did, and that's a whole nother scandalous story for a whole nother day, so we'll leave that be. But basically, the story of Dan and Betty Broderick was Dan was a very successful lawyer who also had a medical degree. He was put through school by Betty, both medical and law school, while she taught, and they amassed this beautiful life together. After she put him through school and did everything that she could for him, Dan and Betty amassed a very lovely life for themselves. Living in, I believe, the San Diego area. And Dan hit around about 40, and he hit middle age, and Dan came to a very big realization about himself. He realized he loved his life, but he just did not love Betty in it. You heard me right. Dan loved his life. He just didn't like Betty in it. He loved his children. He loved his career. He loved his social standing. He just didn't like the fact that Betty was in it anymore. So he went on and he ended up having an affair with, I'm making sure I get this woman's name right, because I'm probably going to butcher it, Linda Coquina, later Linda Coquina Broderick. So Linda Coquina was working at his law office, and Linda was doing a little more than just law work. She couldn't type. She didn't have, according to Betty, allegedly, she couldn't type, right? So she was, she became Dan's personal legal assistant secretary at that point. And Betty didn't like it. Betty didn't like it one bit. According to her, he brought this girl in. She told him, Dan, I don't like it. He kind of was like, you know what, Betty, I really don't care what you like, what you don't like. And that's just that. It is what it is. You like it. Cool. If you don't, cool. I'm going to keep on doing me. I'm going to keep this woman here in my offices. I'm going to keep this woman here working, and that's going to be that. And so Betty reluctantly says okay, and she really doesn't care for it, but Betty feels like she has no real other choice, and she just keeps on going with it. That's pretty much a lie. Betty didn't have a choice that didn't go along with it. She was pissed. So we'll fast forward to, I guess it was one of Dan's birthdays. And Betty dolled herself up and went out, got food for a picnic, and they were going to watch the sunset together. Her and Dan, not her and Linda. But her and Dan. She goes to the office. They act like they don't even know who Betty is. Alright, so strike number 1 through 83. Act like they don't know who Betty is. Then, on top of that, when she goes to see exactly where Dan is, she comes to find out that Dan is actually out on lunch with Linda Coquina at this point. And Betty's upset about this. And then she says her birthday was like November, early November. Let's just go with that. And Dan's was later in November. Earlier that month, she was already distraught about Linda. She claimed she made a suicide attempt, and that was that. And Dan knew how she felt about this Linda Coquina woman. So, Dan gets home later on that evening, and they proceed to have an argument. Betty doesn't care for this. Betty says, "I know how I'm going to fix you." Betty goes out, gets some lighter fluid and Dan's clothes, and proceeds to burn them. This may have been Dan's last strike. What he did with Linda on his birthday might have been his last strike. We don't really know. But subsequently, Dan files for divorce. Dan says, "You know what, Betty? Just go." As I said earlier, Dan said he liked his life, he just didn't like Betty in it. So he kept the kids, didn't really give her any alimony or anything like that, according to Betty. We'll get into that in a second. So she says he didn't give her any money and didn't really take care of her and really wasn't the man that she needed. Dan was giving Betty at that point $9,000 a month for spousal support. She was living in a beach house and had a car. According to her, though, Dan was still controlling everything because those were Dan's assets, and the one asset that they controlled, which was their Southern California home, Dan sold right from under her without her consent, as she explains. Movie with Betty, starring Meredith Baxter Birney, a little different. You'll see how that goes. But, Betty tried to move on. She tried. And it just didn't work out for Betty to move on. Betty just couldn't move on from this. Just grinded Betty's gears. The fact that Linda took her husband. That's what she said. She just basically exclaimed that Linda took her man, and Betty ended up getting a boyfriend, and living on the beach, had a $650,000 house in the 80s. So, you know where that would be in today's money. And it just didn't work out for Betty. Betty she just couldn't take it. So, Betty starts, the kids are at home. She might make a lewd call and call Linda all types of improper names and yell at the phone, and the kids hear the voicemails and say, "Mom, stop it, Mom." And they're not fans of Betty's behavior either. Dan's upset by Betty's behavior. Linda Coquina, according to the movie, broke into Betty's house to steal something back. I guess Betty done stole her wedding guest list, and that was a big thing, and it just was too much for her. She broke in the house allegedly, according to the movie. But we're not going to go into that. Sorry, I got a random phone call, so I will call that number back, but I think that was a spam number, and I should have just had the phone on silent, but I keep the phone on silent, and all my other Apple devices start going. So I'm doing all these videos on a Mac, just in case if you didn't know. But going back to Betty. So Betty sits up, and she's like, you know what? I got this. Betty, after let's start with the obscene phone. So she was making obscene phone calls and all of that, and Betty got angry one day. Just angry at Dan. This is one of her first of many. And maybe one of her first. This is one of her main anger moments. So Betty sits up, and drives her car through the house. You know, in her words, she was trying to knock the door, but driving through it, just knock the door. So Betty does this. John's car through the house. They fight, and Betty gets arrested. It's a whole thing. Betty smears cake on this man's clothes because she came over to the house. She saw that this Linda Coquina has made him a cake and just was like, no, how dare you? And smeared it on his clothes. In her words, it was just a simple 8-inch cake. It wasn't nothing major, but she still smeared it. So that was that. Betty was just angry. Betty was just angry by the whole thing. She was just upset. Right? She's upset. Drives the car, spray paints the house. She gets some kids decor, spray paint and sprays paints all over the house. It's just not good. So, fast forward a little later. Dan marries this Linda Coquina woman. He has to wear a bulletproof vest to the wedding because we all think that Betty's going to shoot him at the wedding. Foreshadowing. That's what I'll say about that right now. So, they get married. The abuse doesn't really stop. Doesn't really go. But Betty is ultimately awarded $16,000 a month, her car, a house. At this point, she says that Dan is making $135,000 a month. And this is in the late 80s, early 90s, he's making this money. So she's awarded $16,000 a month. She also says that Dan was already trying to get that money reduced or just completely taken away. She even says at one point Dan sent her a bill for $1,300 because she was disrupting their household so much that he had the right to charge her extra money for her disruptions. And, Betty just felt like she was being controlled by Dan. And Dan was still controlling the whole situation and the whole narrative. And how dare Dan? And Dan has this new wife. And they're making fun of her. They're calling her names. They're calling her cow and Biggie. And you'll never have a man again, Betty. You'll never have a man. So they're doing all this to Betty. His voice, I'm sorry. I'm silly, so watching, get on board. So, she does all of this, right? And it's a mess. Until one day, Betty gets the bright idea. She says, you know what? Dan and Linda, they're just not listening to me, and they never listen to me. And I'm getting sick of them not listening to me. How dare them never listen to me? I'm Betty Broderick. So late at night, she goes over there with a revolver just to scare him into talking to her. Just, y'all gonna talk to me. And y'all gotta make sure, I'm gonna make sure you guys listen to me. Meanwhile, at this point, she's halfway writing a memoir. She's talking about her story. She's doing interviews, but they're just not listening to her, and that's the problem. So, with the gun, Betty proceeds to break into Dan and Linda Coquina Broderick's house. And she creeps up the stairs. And in her words, she makes it to the room. Linda screams, call the cops! In her words, she didn't see the gun, but she just saw Betty and said, call the police, you! Alright. Few bullets in Dan, and a few bullets in Linda Coquina Broderick later. They're dead. Betty done shot Dan. Or in the words of her the story, the made-for-TV movie, where Betty was played by Meredith Baxter Birney. She finally killed the bleep bleep bleep. Go watch the movie. You'll find out what those words were. So she finally did it. And that's where the first movie ends. Now there's the second movie on this real life story. And that's where she's talking to her family and talking to her kids. She's called her daughter. She's called her friend. They find Dan and Linda. Then Betty goes and turns herself into the police. She's booked and charged. Betty then has a whole media circus, media spectacle. There's a lawyer. She hires a PR, public relations team to handle the case. Betty is out here doing interviews, and they're talking to Betty, and Betty's telling about her life and how Dan was to her and how mean he was, and how did he think that $16,000 was enough then, while he was making $135,000, and she's just upset. Like, how dare he, and how dare they do this to them, and she had no other choice. Like, what else was she supposed to do? Like, what was Betty to do? Dan was out here making fun of her and laughing at her, and took her children, and did everything. You know, I didn't talk about this earlier, but Betty had dropped her kids off, like, in the middle of the day, middle of the evening, to Dan's house, not knowing Dan was home, just left him on the porch and was like, bye. But, Betty was doing Betty. So, Betty just she just didn't have a choice. Like, what was she to do? So, Betty, or in the words of Dan, bets. Betty kills them, hires the PR team, has her first trial, which surprisingly ended in the hung jury. It was very divisive. A lot of people said Betty should have did it before. People said, how dare she? Betty's not really remorseful about killing Dan, but we'll get into that in a second. So there goes a second trial, right? The second trial comes up. And here we have Betty, yet again, at the trial. I just don't know what happened. I don't know how this happened to Dan. I just don't know. I just don't get it. What am I to do? I don't know. Where am I? What is this? Who is who? What is what? Dan and Linda are dead. I'm free. Now. She wasn't free. Betty lost that second trial and got sentenced to life. 32 years to life. Betty's still in prison today at the recording of this video. Betty Broderick is still sitting in a jail cell with everything going on. So, Betty is not really remorseful for killing Dan. If Dan acted right, basically, to her, or Dan didn't marry Linda Coquina Broderick, Dan will still be alive today. Now, she feels bad for, her kids not having a dad and all that. Like, they don't have a dad, and that sucks to be them, and they have to get jobs and all that. Now, Dan making all this money, Dan should have had some policies, and there should have been some provisions for the Broderick children, or possibly the Broderick Coquina children. I don't forget that girl's name. The Broderick Coquina children, if they was gonna have them, but Linda dead and Dan dead, so there ain't gonna be no Coquina Brodericks running around. So, unfortunately, God rest their souls. So, Betty goes to the trial. Betty becomes a halfway to media darling. She's been on Oprah. She's been here. She's been there. They've told the story. They've made movies. There's a new show on USA. People love Betty Broderick's story because it's just so much. And Betty is just like not anywhere near remorseful for killing Dan. She's just like, maybe if Dan just didn't do what Dan did, Dan would be alive. I didn't want to kill Dan. I had no intentions of killing Dan. Dan's dead. Yeah. Yeah, we know Dan's dead. But did I plan on killing Dan? No. No, she was just going over there with the gun to scare him. Just, oh, no, 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 no. I'm just here to get y'all online. Don't worry about me. I'm just Betty Broderick. I'm just here. I'm just leaving the house. Long story short, Betty, this is a precautionary tale for everybody. One, Betty should have never invested that. Like, I get it that they're married, but Betty completely negated herself and her life for Dan, and she said that she wanted to be a wife and mother. That was her biggest thing, and that's what she wanted to do. Betty in the movie comes off very poorly. Like, I love Betty, but Betty came off poorly in the movie. Betty had a lot going on, and the Broderick children turned against her at the trial. It was a lot and a little bit. Like, it is a spectacle. It is a complete and utter spectacle. Betty sat up and just did what Betty wanted to do, and that was that on that. Betty unfortunately did kill Dan and Linda in cold blood. And a lot of people actually thought that she was going to get off. Even the prosecutor at the time thought she was going to get off. She just came off well, and people were very receptive to Betty's story, and people just were very understanding to it. And it was unfortunate about what happened to Betty. Nobody wants to ever build up a life with somebody and then is told, hey, I like my life. And I love this life that we've created together and that you've created for me and that you've made me very happy with this life. But I've made one very big realization. And that realization is I love my life. I just don't love you in it. Nobody wants to hear that. And I see exactly how that took Betty over the edge and how she just couldn't exactly deal with it. Like, how dare you tell me that you love your life, but you just don't love me in it. That's some grounds for some shooting. Especially after she put him through medical school and law school, and he became a big success, and he was like, well, you could have maybe 5% of what I make a month. And it wasn't like he was just making this for the entire firm. That's how much Dan was making a month. Dan was making $100,000 a month. It was like giving her $9,000 to $16,000 a month, where he kind of felt like it, according to Betty. So I get where the anger came from. She should have just found a better divorce attorney. She should have found somebody else in California, somebody in Los Angeles, somebody who does high-profile celebrities and this, and who didn't care about Dan, who was a bigger shark than Dan. And that's how she should have really put it, like, got him. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Betty just couldn't take it, and unfortunately, it ended into a tragedy and 2 lives being taken away. Who knows? At this point, Dan could have actually been governor. We could have had a Governor Broderick in California. You just never know exactly where those lives could have went to and where those lives could have been. It's a very sad and unfortunate case, and it's just crazy. But that's just wrapping it up and wrapping up the video, and we're going from there. So, I hope that you guys actually like this video. Tell me what you think in the comments. It's something different that I decided to do with the speed build instead of just talking about the house. It's a really beautiful house. Please download it in the gallery. I love it. It is one of my masterpiece houses. So download it. Love it. I mean, I love it a lot. So I would be very excited if you guys loved it. please let me know what you think about this style of video and the speed builds. If this is something I'm going to be doing. My music's coming back on, so see everybody next video.